So now we need to look at how do we recognize emotions. This is why we've created the emotion wheel, and we're starting here at level 7 because level 7 is kind of where you want to get to, and level 7 refers to the number of levels that sit within the emotion wheel itself. And now the important thing about these words is that words create conceptual vessels for us to then be able to think about something. Just right now, do a little experiment and try to think about something that you don't have a word for. Just give yourself a few moments now, try and think about something that you don't have a word for. It's kind of impossible, right? It can be done, but it's very hard, just very abstract ways of thinking. And it's the way that our brain is constructed that when you see something that you don't understand or have never seen before, your first instinct is to describe it, put words around it, try to name it so that you can think about it. And this is what an emotion wheel does. It orders and frameworks those words so that we can think about it. We know that frustration on the anger is the line between us being in control and out of control. So it does a few different things to us. It allows us to easily communicate low levels of arousal. What this also does is it makes us more relaxed about being at low levels of arousal of all the emotions. So it's okay to be concerned. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be irritated. But you're not in the center of the circle. And the center of the circle is where we're most aroused and less likely to be in control. And so the idea isn't just to be happy all the time, to try to get us towards happiness. Yes, peace, being the low level of happiness, is a desirable state. But we don't need to be at peace necessarily to learn. So regulation isn't necessarily correlated with being happy. Regulation is just low levels of these emotions. And so this is why we start looking at the emotion wheel. The other thing with the emotion wheel is we can look at different dimensions. So the dimensions of the emotion wheel, we can start with the fear line, the fear dimension. So this is anxiety and scared. And quite simply, the reason that we split fear off into anxiety and scared is anxiety is more fear of the future. Being scared is fear of the present, something that's presently scaring us. They're both fear, but you do different things in those situations. But the fear line there is a very internally burning energy. So what we do is we look at how do we release that energy externally and get it out. And that's what excitement and anger does. Anger and excitement is the release dimension. It gets energy out. How do we reframe nervousness to anticipation, a little bit of a low level of excitement perhaps. Then we've got the final dimension. That's the wholeness dimension. And our own perceptions of wellness or wholeness are kind of the way that we think about our balance between how happy are we at life or the thing in front of us and versus our level of sadness. And sadness is merely the feeling that we get where we're in a state of loss. Happiness is a state of hope and gain, and sadness is a state of loss. So it can be the loss of expectations of ourselves. That's why perfectionism is so terrible, because it sets up these unrealistic expectations, and so we're constantly sad with ourselves because we're not living up to our expectations. We're constantly falling short. So we need to let go of that perfection so that we can rebalance ourselves with wholeness and wellness. One thing you might notice is there are two universal emotions that are widely written about that aren't in the emotion wheel, and that's surprise and disgust. Now, yes, they are still emotions, but we don't put them in the emotion wheel for one reason, and that is because it's very hard to regulate or to control surprise and disgust. They tend to be very reactionary, and they're interesting to look at. Why were you disgusted at that? And it can be a nice way to learn a little bit more about yourselves. But we don't put them on the wheel simply because they're not as useful when we're trying to look at understanding, perceiving, and managing those emotions. But they're there, and it's interesting to keep that in mind when we have a look at these emotions.